Mary Moscoso. Wendy and I first met Mary while we were pastoring the AOG in Sea Point, this back in the 1980s. Each Sunday evening service, Mary would have a row of young sex workers from the Cape Town docks area. There I was, a young, inexperienced pastor, wondering what we would do if these women became born again and thus unemployed. Mary was a true evangelist. My father and I coveted her ministry and life for South Africa. We once took her around Hillbrow in Johannesburg and said, let's buy a block of high-rise flats and rent out the flats and start a church in the basement parking area. But she was not to be deflected. Her sense of calling and mission was to South America and to Peru in particular. And so it was that she served these people sacrificially and faithfully for well over 30 years. Wendy and I have traveled to Peru and over a number of weeks witnessed the work that Mary was doing. We spent time in the Bible school that she built and established that was in Cusco, where young people were trained and sent out to remote and deeply rural areas. We traveled up into the Andes, and I gasped for oxygen at 5,000 meters, and then gasped with terror as Mary piloted her short wheelbase Pajero along narrow, wet gravel roads with zero barriers and an infinite drop over the sheer edges. This while Mary was steering with one hand because she was sitting on her other hand to keep it warm. I must add that when it was my time to drive, Mary also gasped with terror because for some reason she thought I was hugging the mountainside too closely with her beloved Pajero. We travelled down into the sweltering Amazon jungle, staying in Puerto Maldonado, travelling by taxi into the heart of the Amazon jungle, and meeting leaders of churches that she'd helped to establish. Mary practiced storying the Bible as she ministered and trained people who were semi-literate and for whom orthodox Western-style Bible school approaches set unhelpful obstacles in the way of people who loved Jesus and who were called to preach the good news. And it really is good news. Mary's married to Danny, has two sons, Russell and Matt, and lives in a village called Pisach, which is in the Sacred Valley. We are proud of our close association with Mary and want to be a strength to her and a safe place for her. Wonderful to have you with us, Mary, and I thought we'd go up to Rhodes Mem, where your spiritual journey here started in the 1980s. God put his hand on you, God called you, God turned your life around. Tell us what that was. What sort of a person were you? What were you doing? How did it come about that you landed up at Rhodes Mem?
Yeah, I was at university at the time, studying fine art. And my cousin is Christian, and she'd been trying to share the gospel with me for years. I mean, I knew about the truth. I just didn't want to become a Christian because I had a wrong idea about who God is. I just thought Christianity was...
Just go and pause there for a moment. What was your idea of who God is? What was the idea that you had in your head?
Boring.
Boring?
Yeah, and then you just got to go sit in church and...
irrelevant?
And, oh yeah, I mean, but the main thing is like, I just wanted to go and see life and do things, and I thought, you can't do any of that. And in the Bible's boring, and praying is boring, and I used to say to God for years, I said, like, if it was like in the days of Moses, when he used to do things with people, then I'd be interested. But since that isn't the case, I'm not interested in a God who's sitting up in the sky, and I've just got to be down here and be good, even though it's not like I was particularly bad, but...
And so your cousin
Well, it really was the Holy Spirit, actually, who got me to go to Rhodes Memorial, because she'd invited me there many times and I didn't want to go. And then I had a kind of a week of a lot of persuasion from the Holy Spirit and circumstances and a real conviction. And one guy even had a vision of me, which was spot on. He didn't know me very well. And so it's like I didn't want to make this decision. Like I didn't want to follow God, but I knew that I had to. And so when I went to Rhodes, I actually kind of reluctantly accepted the Lord, because I went with a friend, and then my friend went down to give his life to the Lord. And then I thought, no, but now I've known about this truth for a long time, and I'm not going, and he's going to go to heaven, and I'm not, even though I always knew the truth. And so I thought, I'll go down. But I was really annoyed with God. And I said, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to make me want to pray and want to go to church. I mean, it's ridiculous, because I was just so kind of uneducated about what it means to, what God is like. And he baptized me in the Holy Spirit that same day, and everything just turned around and changed for me.
Describe what was happening at Rhodes. Rhodes Memorial. You're talking about the place up on the mountain?
Yeah. There were these interdenominational meetings on Tuesday mornings at 6:30, and people would come up, and a lot of students as well. And
On the steps.
On the steps, yeah, and just worship the Lord. It was fabulous.
And on that same day, you were baptized in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, the Lord just changed me totally. Oh, I mean, it's been a process all along, but he did quite a powerful thing in me that day. I was just filled with joy. It was a very emotional thing for me, because I didn't even know what baptism in the Holy Spirit is. And they said, do you want to be baptized in the Holy Spirit? And I said, no, thank you, because I said, I've done enough for today. And then they said, no, but do it. It's like really nice. They didn't even explain what it was. I said, oh, okay, I mean, that's the grace of God with my attitude and something happening in me. Yeah. And then just a desire to pray, and started to speak in tongues. Not much. That kind of grew.
Did that change your idea about God?
Well, already my idea was beginning to change when he was starting to persuade me to go to Rhodes, because when that guy had the vision about me, I thought, oh wow, so God actually knows my circumstances. He knows the details about my life, and he actually speaks to people so that he can speak to other people, as that God's actually doing things on earth, and that this is something that I am interested in.
And did you experience it as good news?
Since then, it's been fantastic, because I realized that where my great desire was to go out and to see the world and to kind of adventure and stuff, my life's just been, it's been an adventure, and it's been fantastic, and I've seen more things than I would ever have seen, ever. You know, it's just, I think just walking into God's plan for my life, and him making me the way that I am, so that obviously I would enjoy his plan for my life. It's been the most fantastic thing.
Turning off to Rhodes Mem now. So you didn't feel that God came to take away from you?
Definitely. After about 2 weeks, we were, myself and this other guy, we were invited to go to a YWAM conference.
Yes.
And I think that's where I really understood what it meant to follow God.
Yeah.
And because before it was like, okay, now I've got to try and be good, you know, and pleasing to God. I think this is what I understood, and I knew that he'd forgiven my sins.
Yeah.
And that's about as far as my understanding really went, and that God was good and God was real and doing things here on earth. And then the next part was, well, when I went there, then they spoke to us about making him Lord of your life. Like, it's number one. And, you know, you do what he says, and your dreams and your plans. It's what He's got planned for you, but He has good plans for you. But it also means you can't have idols in your life, and you're not first either. He's first, and so that was like the second radically defining moment in my life when I said, "Okay, God, you first." When I said, and I'm not on the throne. I do what you want, when you want it, how you want it. You're king.
Did you feel that God was worthy of trust?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. I mean, yeah, I believe that God was good, and that He had a good plan for me, and that's why I was prepared to entrust my life,
Yes.
and into His hands. I mean, somebody said to me, "Well, don't you regret that you didn't, become a professional surfer?"
Yes.
And no, I just I wouldn't change this life that I've had for anything. It's been absolutely marvelous, and He gave me what I wanted, and it was what I wanted because it's what He put in my heart, because He has a perfect plan.
We are fatally religious.
Yeah.
So we can take any good news and turn it into a religion, and
Yeah.
kills.
Yeah, it does.
Kills. And it turns from being Jesus is a person that, and I trust Him,
Yeah,
to being a whole lot of,
we add on to Jesus,
yeah, we do.
because He's the central. He's our model. He's the one we follow, and that's where we take our cues from to be like Him.
When you went to Peru, what were you going for?
Originally, when the director said, "Would you like to go to Peru?" and I just felt peace about it, and then the more I prayed about it, and what the Lord put in my heart was, because there was the cholera epidemic, and there was terrorism, and it really was in a shocking state, Peru. And so I said, "Okay, God, I actually need you to really confirm this, because if I know it's your will, I'll go and I'll stay. But if I'm not sure it's really your will, and I don't like it, I'll come back. And as well, if I must lose my life, I don't want to lose it in vain, but I'll lose it if that's your plan. So, I need to know." And it didn't so much start with Him saying, "Yeah, this is what I've got for you." It was more Him putting it in my heart, where I came to a point where I was saying, "I want to go to Peru, God. Like I want to go, like send me. Like, you mustn't close this door on me." And what inspired me was the other thing that the Spirit had put in my heart. There was darkness in this place, and saying, "You have the light. The gospel is light. Jesus is light. Jesus is goodness, and you're going to take goodness and light where there is darkness." And that just inspired me. And
What age were you at that time?
I think it was about 29. Yeah, 29 or 30. Yeah.
Did you find that doors opened for you to share good news, and you saw lives change? How did the Peruvians receive what you were saying?
My first year was really exciting, because I worked with the Mobile Bible Institute, because I wasn't quite sure where I was going to work. I just knew that God was sending. I didn't even know really what I was going to do. I just knew that I need to go there, and I'm going with the light. I mean, it sounds very, very airy-fairy, but this is as much as the Lord had revealed to me. And I knew that I could preach, and I knew that I could teach, those were the gifts that I could offer. And so they got me involved with the Mobile Bible Institute. Would go out and work with the pastors out in the rural areas, and that way I could get a feel for things. And so that was great. I grew a lot. I got to see a lot of Peru. Then I was invited to go to work at Chicama, which is the longest left breaking wave. And I thought, God, like this is you love me so much, like this is. So I went to speak to the national superintendent, and I said, I've been asked to go and work in Chicama. And I said, I don't want to work in Lima, because this is another thing that I've been now strongly feeling was I need to leave Lima because I need to go where there's more need. Because now I'd seen that out of Lima, the capital, there was just a huge need for training. And so he said to me, no, but if you want to go where there's need, then you won't go to the coast, because that's where we have our strongest churches. In fact, you would go to the jungle, or you would go to the mountainous areas. And so I thought, well, yeah, I probably prefer the jungle more than the mountainous areas, because I'd already traveled there, and I didn't like Cusco, that I ended up there for years. And that was like one kind of region with the Assemblies of God that I was working with. So running the Bible Institute, but I was also in charge of Christian education for the region. And so also trying to do workshops with the pastors and in those different areas, and as well working with my students as well, so that they would get practical experience in those workshops. So I traveled a lot. Yeah, it was wonderful. I just like to mention, so often people would say, oh, like all these sacrifices that you made, and poor you going out to these places. But it wasn't poor me, because God made me this way. He wires you to your calling. So there might be things that you have to do that you don't like, but generally speaking, this is where you flow. This is where you flourish, and it's a joy, and you can do it well because you were made for it.
You said just now that you didn't feel that you were making sacrifices. You were just having a really fulfilled, full life.
Yeah.
Have you discovered your relationship with Jesus to be good news for Mary?
Oh, yeah, totally. And what I have also discovered is that it's even better news the closer I get to him, because I can lead a very uneventful life and unexciting life. But when I include Jesus very much in my life, it actually becomes very exciting, because I'm seeing prayer getting answered. I'm in touch with God, and it all sounds very spiritual, I know, but we aren't. We're spirit people, and our God is spirit. It doesn't matter what you do. It's just exciting walking with Jesus. It really is. It's eventful and fabulous.
Here we are sitting at Rhodes Memorial, at the very, very place where you gave your life to Jesus when you were a university student a long time ago. Sitting in the very place where you were baptized in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And you encountered not a boring God,
yeah,
but a wonderful God.
Yeah.
If you, Mary, sitting here now, we're talking to the Mary on that day, what advice would you give yourself, or what would you say to yourself?
I'd definitely say enjoy God more. There's so much to him.
Yes.
I would say wait for his timing as well. Don't be impatient, because God's got his timing and he's not changing it for you. And the waiting times they're not pleasant, but they're times when he can really work in us. Uncomfortable times are times when he can work in us.